Undertale is a tiny game released on the 15th of September 2015 and started life as a $5,000 Kickstarter. And it's here you can see its creator Toby Fox's bewilderment as the budget soars to 10 times his initial ask, as well as little updates like Fox having to take time away from development to sit his college exams. And what I find interesting about these posts is you can see in them a person who had no idea what he was making or what it would become. And how could he? 5 years later, Undertale has become one of the most massive and bewildering forces on the internet. Seriously, I've done 2 videos like this, and exploring those fandoms, it felt like digging through a mine, but Undertale's was more like staring into a massive, yawning abyss, infinite and ever expanding. And what I want to do today is look at how that happened, how the internet took this tiny little game and transformed it into one of the most loved and hated phenomenon online. And to do this, we need to start with Undertale itself. I'm guessing a lot of you know the deal with Undertale. You play as Frisk, a small child who has fallen into an underground kingdom of monsters, and from here you can treat them like you would in any other RPG and murder them, or become their friend. It's a cute idea, but in isolation, it wasn't that new or interesting in 2015. Games like Moon having very similar concepts, but releasing 18 years earlier, with non-lethal runs in games being popular by this time. So why then is the simple choice of Undertale's battles a big deal? And I think there's 2 answers to that. The first being its characters. Undertale has great characters, and how much you agree with that is going to define how you feel about this game. Take a character like Undyne. Initially, she just seems like a human murdering machine, but spend time with her and you'll see that her more homicidal tendencies are just an expression of her loyalty to Asgore. That's how much her friendships mean to her, whether it's knowing Papyrus isn't suited to combat and teaching him to cook instead, or appreciating Alphys's pathetic love of anime. She's someone who's able to see people for what they are rather than what they wish they were, and is able to love them for those reasons. And learning all this about a character who first seemed like a standard RPG boss is really endearing. But that same discovery exists for each major character of Undertale, whether it's Alfie's self-deprecating humor hiding an intense layer of guilt and self-loathing, Flowey's hateful, pathetic existence, or Mettaton's journey to transition into a body they can be themselves in. Despite the fact that a single playthrough of Undertale takes about 6 hours, you get a lot of these characters, and I think a reason for that is how subtly their personalities are communicated. Each character has a home that you can explore, full of all these little touches, like Papyrus's race car bed. As a side note, I really like the mirror in Toriel's home that just says, "It's you." What a cute little joke, and certainly not a prelude to any massive emotional. As well as each character having their own highly expressive theme music. Like take Asgore, the king of the monsters waiting for you at the end of the game, who you are constantly told is this super nice guy, but who has also murdered 6 human children, your soul being the 7th and final one he needs to break the barrier trapping his people underground. And his theme music, the reluctant but frantic Bergentrucken, captures that. It is the sound of a good person trying to convince himself to do something awful for what he believes is the greater good. And that same level of expression can be found everywhere in the Underground, even in a lot of the really tiny little side characters. From Burger Pants, the nihilistic, vaguely unhinged fast food worker, to Muffet the Spider, who is about as adorable as you could make one of those abominable hell creatures, to Napstabloop, the depressed ghost, who at one point asks you to lie on the ground with him and listen to trance music, and oh my god, I don't know that I've ever related to a fictional character this much. And it all comes together to create this world of memorable little creatures who have been forced underground by humans, yet have still managed to scrape together happiness in that. But there's this undercurrent of longing for something more, a desire to escape the underground for a better life under an open sky. And it's sad, but it's that contrast that gives the world of Undertale its beauty. The reason I make a big deal about this is if you don't care about these characters, if you don't believe in this world, then the choices offered by Undertale's battle system, they don't mean anything. But if you do, that's where the option to kill or spare these monsters starts to carry real emotional weight. But it would still all be for nothing if the game didn't react to your decisions in a meaningful way. And Undertale is extremely reactive to the player's actions, even in some really tiny idiosyncratic ways. Like Sans being able to tell that you've reloaded your save file and are experiencing the same sequence again. But where this becomes a big deal is how Undertale reacts to your actions to shape the larger story. The reason I spend so much time talking about the appeal of Undertale is that whether you love it or don't, it's important to understand that this is a game that elicits a lot of emotion in people. But this created a problem. Undertale was still a small indie game. You could see the majority of its meaningful content in less than 20 hours, and from there, all that emotion had nowhere left to go. Take a character like Asriel. Go back to the beginning of the game after a pacifist run, and there he is tending to the flowers. He will not go with you, and you cannot save him. He's resigned to stay alone in the ruins forever, slowly reverting back to the soulless version of himself. And that's it. That's the end of this character. And this is where Dreamer Reborn comes in, a fan comic that reimagines this scenario, where now Frisk shares their soul with Asriel, allowing him to join his family on the surface and start a new life. And if you want to know how hungry people were for this kind of content, Dreamer Reborn was uploaded just 8 days after Undertale's release. Dreamer Reborn went on to be massively popular, even resulting in its own fan game, and was a critical moment for what Undertale would become online, because it told fans, if you wanted more Undertale, you could create it yourself. This opened the door to a whole world of new fan content. Say you were super into a character like Alphys, who maybe has 20 to 30 minutes dialogue across the entire game total. Well, through fan content, she became infinite. Now you could watch her take cooking lessons with Undyne, you could explore the horror of her failed experiments, you could watch her get married, try on outfits, play video games, hell, you could even argue with her about anime in one of the many Undertale Ask blogs. People even creating elaborate animations like this short showing Alphys sinking into despair over the atrocities she's committed, and how her first meeting with Undyne began to change that. It's beautiful, but the thing is, this kind of fan content was now being made for every major character of the game, a sign of just how quickly Undertale was spreading online. Through nothing more than fan passion, the game became a massively popular topic for video essays that would scrape at every tiny corner of the game, desperate to uncover new information for an increasingly ravenous fan base. The game even reached some of the most popular creators on the internet who would stream and let's play this niche indie RPG to audiences of millions, leading to massive influxes of new fans.